everyone, welcome to another episode of the Ease and Grace Show. Super excited about the topic that I want to talk about today, which is around how do you embody your feminine energy? What does it mean to have a woman who lives from a place of her feminine energy? And what are some of the things that we need to do? Have been inspired by this topic today because I've recently joined TikTok, which is an interesting experience, one in which, on one hand, there is an overload of information, content creators telling you what to do and how to do things. And I have been feeling overwhelmed on TikTok recently. However, it's also been a good opportunity to also learn what is out there in the world, what people are teaching, what people are sharing, and what information, you can use to better your life. And one of the things, obviously, me being into feminine energy, feminine embodiment, one of the things that I have been curious about is to see how other people are talking about feminine embodiment, feminine energy. And what I've come to see from a lot of the work that people are putting out there, and this is no shade at all to the quality of the work and the content, but a lot of it comes from a very sort of stereotypical side of what feminine energy means. It's kind of like a pet peeve for me, actually, because it makes me feel like, there is so much more to femininity and feminine energy than the way you're looking, the way you're behaving, the clothes that you're wearing. And I really feel like feminine energy is a spiritual embodiment, not just an aesthetic appearance. And so in today's podcast, I just want to share with you what feminine energy really means from a much more deeper perspective, and how we can actually be in our feminine beyond, we need to have our nails done, we need to have our lashes done. A lot of the women I see talking about femininity, they're absolutely beautiful women. And, I'm like, wow, this is like a wonderful thing to present. Is it sustainable? Is it realistic? Is it realistic? Can we always look dolled up and perfectly lashed up and hair gelled up every single time in order for us to be feminine? And I think it's just important that we don't allow ourselves to fall into the same traps that have kept women in this space of, going in circles around how they're showing up and what they're doing. And I really feel like having an understanding from a deeper perspective of what femininity is about and feminine energy is about is going to be really important to ensure that, certainly for us in the Mega Woman community, we are living like a holistic experience in our feminine journey. So let's talk about it. What are some of the feminine energy practices that we can embody? What does feminine energy even mean? And how do we show up with our femininity intact? Feminine energy, like I've said, I believe is a spiritual experience. It's an essence. It is an embodiment of the fluidity and flow of life. It is the trust and knowing of a divine expansion within us. So, in other words, feminine energy is about you being tuned into a higher frequency within yourself that allows you to trust your intuition, that allows you to open up to creativity, that allows you to embody the non-linear nature of being in flow. And I love to use Mother Nature as the perfect example of feminine energy. Mother Nature is organic. Mother Nature goes with the flow. Mother Nature is seasonal. Mother Nature operates in cycles. There are times where her experiences in the world is about growth. It's about renewal. It's about creativity. And there are other times within Mother Nature that is about destruction. It's about death. It's about starting over again. And so when we can understand feminine energy from that dynamic, what we're ultimately saying is that feminine energy is about going with the flow and trusting in that flow. It is also more than just being a pretty, dainty, well-behaved, conditioned woman, which actually is a false narrative of femininity. If we were to look at Mother Nature as the example of what feminine energy is, Mother Nature is wild. Mother Nature is unbridled. She is not shackled into a certain expectation. She does what she wants to do, which is why, in one moment she can be a very soft, gentle breeze cooling you down on a hot summer day. And in another moment, she can literally become a tornado that rips into entire cities and uproots trees, houses, and all sorts of things. Likewise, a volcano. Mother Nature can be a volcano that has been resting and quiet for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then literally something happens, something triggers, and there's a vroom, a massive volcanic eruption that literally spills ash and fire everywhere. And so this notion that femininity is only about the pretty side of things, it's only about the soft side of things, and this whole movement of soft girl, baby girl life isn't necessarily the real essence of femininity. If anything, it kind of perpetuates the narrative from the patriarchal system about what femininity is about. A lot of what we are hearing on social media platforms around what it means to be a woman who is feminine is derived from a patriarchal masculine perspective of what femininity is. And again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying that there isn't a place where as women we do want to look good, we do want to paint our nails, get our lashes done. I do that all the time. So I'm definitely all for showing up in my best version of myself from a feminine perspective. But I think it is important to understand the weightier and the deeper elements of what femininity is about, so that you are really tuning into the full spectrum of your feminine energy and your feminine power. So having now sort of set that as a foundation, let's talk about, how do we become women who embodies our feminine energy? The first thing is about creating safety first within yourself. This is huge. And I came to this realization just even this year as I moved into January, where I came to this thought that a lot of people enter into the new year thinking that they are ready for a new start, a new beginning, but their nervous system hasn't caught up to that yet. Now, what do I mean by that? Our nervous system is the dynamic within our internal world that gives us a signal as to whether we are safe to proceed or whether we are unsafe to proceed. This is where the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn survival mechanisms come from. The way the human body and biology is designed is that if there is a sense of a threat, if there's a sense of an impending danger, our bodies naturally will wire up to do any of those four things: either run from the threat, fight the threat, freeze because of the threat, or fawn, which is try to pretend, maybe play dead or try to appease the threat in order to avoid the impending danger. Now that's on a very evolutionary sort of primordial, primal perspective. But if we were to translate that into our modern world, many of us are operating with our nervous system switched into that survival mode. Many of us are so into this kind of tensed mode of our lives that we are literally always on edge. And I realized that this particular New Year's, as we stepped into the new year, I have this pattern that I've sort of done for the last maybe, I think probably about 5 or 6 years now, where I actually don't go to crossover watch night service. I switch off my phone at midnight just before the new year rings in. And the reason why I made that decision was because I remember one particular night after going to crossover service, coming back from the church watch night service, and I remember just feeling stressed. I remember feeling my body just overwhelmed with activity. There was noise, there was traffic, there were crowds, there were people, there were fireworks going up, and everything just felt like I had to be on this super urgent alert. My body was operating in the survival mode. I was on edge. I was like overstimulated and my body didn't feel safe. And I remember saying to myself, gosh, it's just the first day of the year and I already feel stressed. And many of us are entering into the new year with this dynamic and not actually realizing that our bodies haven't calibrated to a space of calmness, to a space of ease, to a space of easing into what the new year is about and what it entails. And why am I talking about this? Because obviously this is kind of like a segue to the main topic of today. But the reason why I bring that up is to explain the fact that with your feminine energy, safety internally is the first priority in order to be the woman that can flow in her feminine energy. Feminine energy flows when your system feels safe. When your system doesn't feel like there is a danger, there is something to do, there is something to rush at, there is something to protect, there is something to defend. Your body literally has capacity to just slow down, take a breath, release that tension in your jaw, your shoulders, your belly, and you literally enter into a space where you're not rushing. You're not always in overdrive. You're not always on the go. I meet so many women who, in some ways, feel proud that they do multiple things all at the same time. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do that. I just finished doing this and I have to do that. Or I'm studying this and I'm studying that. And they're just constantly on the go. That is not a sign of a woman in flow of her feminine energy. That is more of a sign of a woman whose nervous system hasn't found regulation and there is constant activity through that nervous system. If your body is constantly tensed or you're braced for some kind of action to happen, or you operate from a hypervigilance, or you're constantly trying to prove yourself, or you're constantly trying to do something or finish something off, you are not operating in your feminine energy. You are operating from a survival mode. You are operating subconsciously from a fight or flight or freeze or fawn mode, where nervous system wise there is an impending danger subconsciously that your body is perceiving, which is why you don't have settlement, which is why you're not calm, which is why you can't be still, which is why you're always having to do one thing or another. So feminine energy, in order for you to be a woman that really understands it and practices it well and embodies it, you have to learn to develop a relationship with your body so that your body can be the one that guides you into when you should take action, when you need to calibrate, when you need to be calm, when you need to take a breath. If you are a woman that doesn't honor the cues of your body, then you are in the drive, you're in that masculine drive, because masculine energy is all about doing. Masculine energy is all about let's go, let's get this, let's stop, let's not stop. We can't stop until we hit the target. And this is why sometimes, even for us as women, the way we set our resolutions, our fitness goals, doesn't really align with our feminine energy. You know, again, this is something that I came to realize when every year I have a fitness goal. Oh, I want to go to the gym. I'm going to start doing high intensity, workouts. I want to start doing this. And I haven't taken into account that, well, my body is hormonal. My body is seasonal. My body operates on a monthly cycle. There will be times in my monthly cycle I literally do not have the energy to do anything. This week I just finished my monthly cycle. I didn't lift a finger. I didn't exercise. I didn't walk because that's not what my body wanted. And so as women, learning how to be in your feminine energy is going to be important for you to learn how to relate with your body. Learn how to understand the cycles of your body. Learn how to move with the seasons of your body. You know, as women, we have internal seasons, just like how nature has its own seasons. we have our own internal winters, which is the time of our menstruation. And that time of our menstruation tells us be calm, be still, go within, rest, recalibrate. And then we have the inner spring, where we're just coming out of our menstruation phase, we're coming out of the bleeding phase. Energy is rising, and literally like spring, we have the blooms, we have the flowers budding, we have activity and signs of life where it feels safe to go out, it feels safe to engage, it feels safe to do certain things. And then we have the inner summer, which is the height of our energy. It's when we're about to move into our ovulation stage. This is where we're very energetic. We have time for people. We're in the mood to make love. We're in the mood to have fun. We're in the mood to go out. And that's when we can do our most productive work, because the energy and the drive is there. That is actually when our testosterone kicks in and that productivity really shines forth. And then we move into the inner autumn, which is where the cycle starts to go back to the beginning again, where the leaves are shedding. It's just before our menstruation is about to start. Our energy levels are dropping. There's things that we want to just kind of leave behind and not stress about, and just prepare ourselves again to go into that inner winter. And so, feminine energy, in order for you to really embody this, in order for you to really practice it and be in flow, you have to have a relationship with your body. You have to have a relationship with your nervous system. You have to pay attention to the messages that your body is speaking to you, so that you act in alignment with your body, not against it. Many of us as women, because we have not had this piece of learning, we have literally lived our lives in the complete opposite way that we were supposed to live our lives. We've lived our lives like men rather than live our lives like women. And feminine energy invites us back into living our lives from the original blueprint for which we were created to live from. The other thing about, feminine energy, how do you practice it? What does it mean? How do I show up as a woman in embodying her feminine energy, is learning how to really be present, learning how to shift away from forcing things, controlling things, pushing things, fixing things, and moving into the space where you sense more, you feel more, you receive more, you respond more. So feminine energy is not reactive. Feminine energy is responsive. And in order for feminine energy to be responsive, there is a presence that needs to be held. There is a presence that needs to be stabilized. There is a presence that needs to be honored. Masculine energy says, let's push, let's control, let's strategize, let's fix, let's do. Feminine energy says, let us be. Feminine energy is about being rather than doing. And in order for you to be, in order for you to be present, you have to have an acute sensory relationship with all that which is in and around you. You have to have capacity to feel your emotions, the various spectrums of the emotions that we have. Feminine energy is very much in tune with feelings. Feminine energy is also about sensing, being perceptive, being intuitive, knowing when seasons are changing, knowing when energy is changing, knowing when something is off, and responding to that signal, responding to that stimulus rather than ignoring it and just doing anyway. Masculine energy, because it's so wired into doing, it will push past certain red flags. It will push past certain signals. It will push past certain things that being tuned into your feminine energy will tell you, hold on, stop a moment. I'm not sure if this is the right thing for you. I'm not sure if this is the right space to be in. So feminine energy is about also having the ability to receive. Many women don't know how to receive. We don't know how to receive help. We don't know how to receive love. We don't know how to receive compliments. We don't know how to receive support, because we have been wired to kind of compete with men, to do what men can do. And so if a man can do, I can do it too, kind of mindset. But feminine energy says, I'm open to being supported. I'm open to receiving. I'm open to being helped, and there is no shame or weakness in asking and receiving that help. Feminine energy is responsive, not reactionary. To react means you are coming from a fight, flight, or freeze mentality. It means you're in survival mode response. You are reacting because something inside of you has been triggered that needs you to feel like you have to survive whatever that thing is. Feminine energy pauses. Feminine energy takes time to reflect. Feminine energy thinks before her mouth opens. And so that when her mouth opens, it's a response that hits the nail on the head. So things like, getting into the habit of asking yourself, how do I feel right now? Is something that will help you to cultivate the practice of your feminine energy. Asking yourself, how does your body feel? What does your body need? Pausing and really tuning into that is going to support you in practicing and living from a place of your feminine energy. Thinking through, why must I rush this moment? Do I need an immediate response? Do I need an immediate reaction? Can I pause? Can I reflect? Can I be still? Can I trust that this moment will evolve in the way that it needs to evolve without me needing to control it? That is what feminine energy is. Feminine energy prioritizes presence as a form of power, prioritizes being as a form of power. Nothing to prove, nothing to push, nothing to force, nothing to control. A woman who is always wanting to control things needs to learn how to cultivate being present, needs to learn how to allow things to evolve without her input and allow the trusting divine flow to do what it needs to do. So feminine energy is, I love the fact that feminine energy is such a resource that we can constantly tune into as women, because it literally helps you to live a life of ease and grace. It literally helps you to live a life of going with the flow, not overthinking, not overworking, not overstressing, not overdoing, not overgiving, not overpleasing, and just literally being fully present to yourself as the sovereignty and as the power in and of itself. When we talk about feminine energy, I've mentioned this already before, it is about also you reconnecting with your body. Your feminine energy lives in the body, ladies. It does not live in your head. It lives in the body, which is why if you really want to get better at using your feminine energy, understanding your feminine energy, your relationship with your body has to be totally on point. And when I say relationship with your body, it's not just, I feel ill and, I need to take medicine, or I've seen something unusual in my body. That's one part, to be able to see some of your physical signs of discomfort, of dis-ease or illnesses in the body, of course. But when I talk about feminine energy living in the body and not in the head, what I mean is that feminine energy is intuitive. Feminine energy is going to speak to you intuitively through your body. So, if you've ever had a sense of something's about to happen, you will tend to have a feeling somewhere in your body. I had this lady who I used to work with, and she said she always knew when someone was about to pass away because her body would literally turn cold. That is a form of her being so in tune with her body that she understands the messages of her body. There's another experience that I seem to have as well, that when I have thought of a really pleasurable moment, maybe it's a sexual moment or a fun moment or something that I really enjoyed, there's a part at the back of the right hand side of my thigh, right down to maybe midway to my calf, that tingles. And every time I know that that tingle happens, I know that I'm remembering something that really made me happy. So feminine energy is an invitation for us to learn how our body likes to communicate to us. And the way that we can do that is getting into the habit of moving our body daily. Dance is a beautiful expression of feminine energy. However you want to dance, whether it's Afro beats, whether it's ballet dancing, whether it's just non-linear movements. Dancing is so beautiful because it takes you out of your head and drops you into your body. And there are times where I have, experienced so much emotional healing through moving my body, through dancing to a particular song that just causes me to feel the different ranges of my emotions in my body. And after dancing, I come away feeling shifted. I come away literally feeling energy moving through my body. Another way for you to cultivate a relationship with your body in order for you to kind of enhance and build up your feminine energy is through touch. I used to laugh at myself because when I was growing up, I remember I would go into the shower and literally it felt like I was having a battle with myself. I'll put the soap on the sponge and literally I'm slapping myself as I'm washing. I'm scrubbing myself really hard and just, when I come out of the shower, I'm drying myself really aggressively. I'm creaming myself really aggressively. I'm just doing everything harshly. But, when we're in that kind of go, go, go space, we're not in tune. We're not touching ourselves in a sensual way. When I say sensual way, this is not sexual. It is just appreciating the sensations of our skin, taking a moment to oil our skin properly, bathing ourselves gently, placing a hand on our womb, on our hearts, on different parts of our bodies, and just being in tune with these aspects of us, knowing that every element of our body is alive and active, is a code speaking to us. So feminine energy is also about moving into a deeper presence of your body. So this is not the space where you're overthinking. If you're constantly thinking, if you're constantly trying to analyze, if you're constantly trying to overdo, you are literally not in your feminine. So with feminine energy, if this is an area that you really want to cultivate and practice, you have to learn to stop overthinking and do more inhabiting. Go more into your body. Learn your body more. Know the terrains of your body. I take my time when I'm creaming myself. I literally oil my body. And as I'm oiling my body, I'm feeling the way my hands are moving around my skin. I am seeing and imagining the moisture being soaked into my body. And, very often when I'm creaming myself, I'm also speaking to myself. I'm loving myself. And if I'm not speaking to myself, the act of the way in which I oil my skin, the way I dry myself, my body has already encoded that those motions in and of themselves are actions of love. So ladies, if you are thinking about this year being the year where you embody more feminine energy, break away from the whole idea of it's how I look, it's a soft girl life, it's my lashes, it's my, guys paying for me to go for dates, etc. It is so much more deeper than that. Feminine energy invites you into a relationship with self, into a relationship with divinity, into a relationship with your own feminine power. And that leads me to talk about feminine energy and emotions. Emotions can be very, volatile. And I think as women, we get a bad rap about, hold on, let me just bring my charger out from my phone. Feminine energy, we get a bad rap around. Sorry, I was distracted there because I was trying to find my charger and I can't, so I'm just going to go with the flow. Hopefully I'll wrap this up before my battery dies. But let's talk about feminine energy and emotions. As women, we are already branded as emotional beings. We tend to be, told that we're too emotional. And because of that, a lot of us as women have learned to withhold our emotions. We have learned to stifle our emotions, or we lack judgment with our emotions. We are not emotionally intelligent. We don't know how to control our emotions. So we can find ourselves on the spectrum of two sides where we're either so controlled with our emotions we literally don't show any, or We are so in control of our emotions that we literally become chaos everywhere we go. But feminine energy is about emotional intelligence. It is not emotional chaos. So yes, we can feel the different ranges of our emotions, but it does not allow, feminine energy does not allow ourselves to be overwhelmed and swept with our emotions. We can feel the feelings without labeling them as weak or dramatic, as inconvenient. We can cry, we can have softness, we can have desire, we can have intuition. These are all elements of emotional intelligence that allows us to work through the dynamics of how we feel without the emotions taking over who we are. This is really, really, really important. A woman who is practicing her feminine energy is a woman who has emotional intelligence. She is able to identify what she feels. She's able to sit with that which she feels. She's also able to trust that in the moment of what she's feeling, she is safe to feel those feelings. And she knows that at some point, those feelings will shift. And so she trusts the process of her emotional evolution, and she doesn't try to control it, interrupt it, or stifle it. At the same time, because she's embodied in herself, she recognizes how and when the emotions will take her. And so she is in flow with the emotions, not overreacting with the emotions. So when we get those dramatic flares, when we get those unrestrained emotions, it is because we haven't trusted that the body knows how it will navigate those emotions. So you can be extremely angry and you can express your anger in a way that it doesn't overtake you, it doesn't overcome you, it doesn't override you, but you can still express everything that you need to express without stifling it. And that is because when you are operating from your feminine energy, when you're dealing with your emotions through your feminine energy, you are giving it space without judgment. You are allowing your emotions to be present without judging it, without labeling it, without trying to control it. So feminine energy doesn't shy away from emotions that are deep. And at the same time, feminine energy does not allow those deep emotions to sweep her over. She relates to those emotions. She engages those emotions. She says, okay, I'm in this moment right now. I'm feeling extreme anger right now. I'm feeling the depths of grief right now. I'm feeling the depths of sadness right now. She owns it. She recognizes it for what it is. This is an emotion. And then she engages with it. She feels where this emotion is coming from. Sometimes with anger, it might be in the jaw, it might be in the chest, it might be in the stomach, it might be in the feet. She pays attention to where these emotions are showing up. And in where those emotions are showing up, she's asking herself, how do I move through this? What would you like me to do, having had this experience, having accommodated you in my body? What do you want me to learn from this emotion? And so one of the beautiful ways of working with your feminine energy and your emotional intelligence is combining it with journaling. When you're able to sit with your emotions, ask questions of your emotions, feel where your emotions are present, you can start to journal it. You know, why is this emotion showing up here? What is it about my heart that this emotion is so deeply embedded in? Where is it hurting? Why am I hurting? What is the lesson that this hurt has for me? What is the lesson that this anger has for me? What is this lesson that this pain has for me? And how do I want to move through it? And it might be that, you have an inspiration to go and have a shower, go for a jog, go outside, take a deep breath, go to bed. Whatever it might be, there will be a cue and a message for you on how you can handle your emotions effectively. Final thing to say when we talk about feminine energy, which I really, really think is an important piece, is as a woman, if you are trying to embody your feminine energy, Be okay to receiving. Receive more than you give. This is a disruptor. It is a disruptor because we are taught the opposite. We are taught to overgive. We are taught to overfunction. We're taught to overprove. We're taught to overexplain. But feminine energy, this is the place where you just receive. Learn to take compliments without deflecting them. I used to do that all the time. Someone would give me a wonderful compliment and I would literally brush it off. I would literally, pretend that it wasn't me. I would play it down. If someone says you're beautiful, say thank you so much. Full stop. Nothing to add, nothing to justify, nothing to qualify. You're beautiful. Take it, move on. Take support without guilt. If someone offers you to help, take it. Don't be forming. I'm an independent woman. I can do this all by myself. It's not true. It's a lie. We were never designed to do things alone. And I'm going to pause to try and get my charger. So give me half a second. Because I'm feeling in a flow and I don't want to actually stop that flow. So let's not stop the juice of the flow. So this is what podcasting is like, right? I'm just going to go with the flow. My son has my battery, my power banks, which is so annoying because I've told him so many times, when you take my thing, bring it back. So just give me a second, guys. And that actually is another lesson around feminine energy, boundaries. How do we set the kind of boundaries where they are honored, where they are not disregarded? But I'm going to talk about that as our next thing. I've plugged us in, so we're back in action, so I can flow for a little bit more. But let me finish the point first. I was talking about being able to receive, and then I want to talk about boundaries because I do believe this is one of the biggest challenges that we have. So feminine energy, ladies, is about your capacity to receive, is about your capacity to not be afraid it's about your capacity to receive. It is about your capacity to not be afraid to ask for help. I remember when I was young with my first child, I was still going to university. So I had my first child when I was quite young. And it was back in the days where I was pushing the pram. I hadn't gotten a car by then, even though I knew how to drive, but I hadn't gotten a car by then. And I'll always remember on the tube, really, really packed tube. I came out of the tube and I think it was Oxford Circus or Piccadilly, one of those places where you just have long stairs to climb in the tube. And I had this pram and I started carrying the pram by myself with my bag, with all sorts of stuff inside, with my son in the pram and everything. And there was a man that stopped to say, "Oh, can I help you?" And I said to him, "Oh, no, I'm okay, I'm fine." And he looked rather surprised, a little bit disappointed that I had declined his offer of help. And then I climbed the stairs. I got to the top of the stairs. I was actually tired. It was hard for me to do so. And I remember the Holy Spirit saying to me, "Never again refuse a hand of help. There is no glory in you trying to do things all by yourself when there is someone that can support you to help you to do it better." And ever since then, I have been so much more mindful about not turning down help. I'm not perfect. I sometimes do fall into that independent, oh, I can do it by myself. I don't want to bother anyone else. But feminine energy in its optimum doesn't shy away from receiving support, doesn't see support or asking for help as anything to be ashamed of about, or anything that is a sign of weakness. When you are able to allow yourself to receive, you actually help yourself to recalibrate and balance. The reason why so many women are exhausted and burnt out, and when you look at them, you can tell that they've been through rough things, it's because they have carried so much more than what they need to carry on their journey of life. Because they haven't asked for that help, they haven't given themselves permission to receive, they have not allowed themselves to rest. So, feminine energy, ladies, is not a doing energy. And this doesn't mean as women we shouldn't do anything, we should just be lying down and waiting for help to come. That's not what I'm saying, because at the same time, you can fall into a toxic or shadow side of femininity where you go to the extreme and you literally have no structure, you have no doing, and nothing is moving in your life. So there's also the shadow side of the feminine, which maybe I'll do another podcast on another time. But what we're saying here is that the large majority of women, because they are so in their masculine, they don't have this balance. They don't have this. And this is what we're trying to encourage us to do more of, so we can rebalance the masculine and the feminine energy within us. I said I was going to talk about boundaries just because of that whole battery charging thing, and that inspired me. Boundaries are a huge, huge, huge component in feminine energy, in living from your feminine power. Why? Because feminine energy is about being truthful. It's about self-honoring. It is about holding up standards that are true for you. It's why I love Mother Nature. If Mother Nature needs to turn into an earthquake, she's going to do what she needs to do. If Mother Nature needs to give birth, she's going to do what she needs to do. And so feminine energy tells us that part of our journey of our feminine power is our ability to honor ourselves and to be true to ourselves. Many of us live in silence. Many of us live in secret pain. Many of us are tolerating things that every fiber of our being hates tolerating. But yet we continue to persevere, we continue to play the good woman narrative, we continue to play the long-suffering narrative. But we do ourselves a disservice when that happens. So feminine energy says, honor yourself, set boundaries, let your no be no and be okay with your no. You do not need to explain yourself. And this is something I am learning every single day, ladies. So as much as I'm sharing all of these things with you, you know me by now. I always want you to know that I am not coming from a place of perfection. I am not coming from a place of I have got it all fixed together. I have 2 grown adult children now in my home. And my younger one is still a teenager, so he's still in his adolescent stages. But the amount of times I have found myself having to justify my no, having to explain my no, having to tell them, give reasons for why I have made executive decisions as the parent in the house, has left me exhausted. And actually, one of the things I've said for myself this year is, I will not negotiate my no. I will not explain my no to you. I will not justify my no. If you want to understand my no, that's for you. That's your burden. It's not my burden to explain my no. So ladies, I really want us to really get to that place, especially with our boundaries, so that we don't end up living resentful lives. We don't end up stuck in situations we absolutely hate, but we have actually given permission for us to be in those toxic situations. People will treat you the way that you let them treat you. And this is why boundaries are so important. This is why you drawing the line and having your standards that are non-negotiable are so important. And this is why I say that sometimes the way in which we learn about femininity isn't always the complete way. Because with femininity, the way, in the wider sense that we're taught, whether it's in church or on social media or even in beauty standards, is this very soft, passive, just take what's given to you, don't complain, be demure about things kind of attitude. But actually, Mother Nature, just always remember, she can be a volcano erupting. She can be an earthquake shattering. She can be a storm destroying. So there is a softness to feminine energy, but there's also a hard line to feminine energy as well. There's also an unbridled nature in feminine energy. And the final thing I'll say as I wrap up today's podcast is feminine energy disrupts the patriarchy. What do I mean by this? Feminine energy is an invitation to shed the conditioning of being, in quotes, a good woman. Now, hear me as I explain what I'm about to explain. When I say good woman, and I'm using in quotes here, it is referencing to a patriarchal lens of what a woman should be. It is referencing a masculine conditioning that has been imposed upon us as women that has led to a suppression and oppression of the woman. So this is where you will hear people say, You know, you just have to stick it out in a bad marriage. This is where you will see, very, very unfortunately, women who have stayed in abusive relationships, all in the name of being a good woman. Means you stay in your home. You don't tell people what's going on. So, if you are ready to embody your feminine energy, you are going to be invited to release this notion of the stereotypical patriarchal labeling of what a good woman is. You are going to be invited to move away from being palatable, self sacrificing, strong at all cost, people pleasing, putting yourself last on the list, letting everybody do whatever they want to do without you, stifling your nose, stifling your yes. You will have to be willing to put all of that to the side, because true feminine energy is honest. True feminine energy is sensual. True feminine energy is boundaried. True feminine energy is magnetic. There is nothing quiet about femininity. There is nothing compliant about femininity. This is how society has made us think about femininity. But actually, femininity at the heart of it is self honoring, it's divine honoring, it is intuition honoring, it's boundary honoring, it's honesty. It is where you show up unbridled. It is where you show up unafraid to be yourself, your authentic self, and you express yourself in that way. So, ladies, let life meet you where you are. Instead of being in this space of how can I make this happen? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? Etc. Try to allow life to invite you into softness, ease, grace, and direction. So, as I round up today's podcast episode, remember that feminine energy is a responsive energy. Feminine energy responds, receives, is open, it's intuitive, it flows, it grows, it changes, it is non-linear. Masculine energy, which we also need, by the way, ladies. So please do not take this episode as an episode where I am saying we do not need masculine energy. We need the balance of both, which is why in the world of feminine energy, we call it the sacred union, where the masculine energy in the woman is balanced with the feminine energy, because the masculine energy is the doing energy. It's the energy that does get shit done. And we definitely want to be women who get things done, but not to the detriment of our well-being, not to the detriment of our safety, not to the detriment of our happiness. And that's why knowing how to lead from a place of your feminine energy is going to support many women who actually live so much in their masculine energy. So thank you so much for staying plugged into today's episode. Thank you for allowing me to be just my authentic self, even with the stuff of the charger. And this is what it means to be in your feminine energy, right? You're not trying to be perfect. You're not trying to get everything right and pristine. You're just living your life and you're allowing life to be expressed through that. It's like having an organic apple or an organic carrot. It is not perfectly round and shiny and beautiful like how you see those perfectly packaged apples or carrots in the supermarkets. If you've ever seen an organic carrot or an organic apple, sometimes it doesn't feel like, it doesn't look pretty, but nonetheless, there's a beauty in its funny shape. There's a beauty in its non-perfect shape. And that's what, for me, is my journey as I'm showing up more, trying to be more visible, trying to share more of my message. I am not going to be doing so from a place of it being perfect. I'm going to grow into it being refined. And so that means along the way, there will be hiccups, there will be glitches, there will be mistakes. Whatever it is, I'm okay with it, because my feminine energy is allowing me to be just who I am. And that's my encouragement for you as we round up today's session. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone, like it, follow, subscribe, comment on the episode, join my WhatsApp community as well. I will drop the links in the description box where you can get access to all the variety of resources that I have. If you also want to have the experience of what it's like to really be tapped into your feminine energy, I am hosting a retreat in South Africa on the 10th to the 15th of November this year, 2026. It is tagged and themed The Wild Feminine. And this is where we're really going to learn how we become the unbridled versions of ourselves and how we allow our wild feminine to awaken in us, to give us the highest vibration of joy, peace, and happiness in all ramifications of our lives. And again, details of that can be found in the link that I will be sharing in the description box as well. Thank you so much. Lovely, lovely, lovely session. And I hope that it has resonated with you in one way or another. Share, like, follow, subscribe, and I will see you on another episode of the Ease and Grace podcast show.